Texas Math Mundo audience, are we in store for a treat today? In the house is Mr. Vik Shirvaikar, a four-time UIL State Champion in 2014 and 2015. He was a UIL State Champion in calculator applications and mathematics. Out of Liberty High School located in Frisco, Texas, Mr. Vik Shirvaikar in the house. Let me take a quick moment and ask if you enjoy this content that you please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, that you make a comment below, and you smash that like button. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Let's spread this joy, let's spread this beauty to as many people as possible. Four-time UIL State Champion, Mr. Vik Shirvaikar, right ahead. My name is Saruth Gandu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Texas Math Mundo audience, are we in store for a treat today? In the house is Vik Shirvaikar. He's a four-time state UIL champion in 2014 and 2015. He was the Texas UIL calculator applications and mathematics state champion from Liberty High School in Frisco, Texas, a proud Red Hawk. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Vik Shirvaikar. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here today. Looking forward to speaking with you and sharing my story a little bit.
The pleasure's mine. I look forward to this. It's going to be a blast, man. Let's start off by asking, how are you doing and what are you up to nowadays?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I am in the third year now of my PhD in statistics. Calling to you live over here from England. I'm at Oxford, and it is, it's a PhD is a really, really interesting experience. I'm sure you've spoken to a few people doing it before, but it's kind of first you think you know everything, then you learn how much there is you don't know, and then ultimately you kind of slowly start to work your way there and get a little bit more comfortable with sort of your special interest in your area of the world. And so, yeah, it's been a really great learning experience. And I mean, coming over here, living in another country has been really cool and interesting and fun and eye-opening as well. So yeah, no, I'm doing great. And it's been a nice time. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, is it all consuming, or do you have time to have fun?
Oh, not at all. No, I mean, it's actually, I mean, one of the sort of nice things, if I look at, some of my friends who are working a lot more serious jobs and, coding, finance, what have you, the great part, I think the ultimate sort of redeeming thing about the academic lifestyle is you really have so much freedom to set your own schedule, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm a morning person. I work best sort of waking up and getting my best work done at, 7, 8 a.m. A lot of my friends are evening people and they like to work until the late hours. But the great thing is that there's nobody sort of looking over your shoulder and really sort of enforcing a schedule on you, right? So as long as you're getting your work done, you can work a few weekends and then, take a couple weeks off if you want. You can really sort of stack your hours however you like. But that's the nice thing about the PhD is that you can really flexibly fit your schedule to sort of fit what works best for you.
And wow, Oxford, there are few institutions on the planet with such a glorious history.
Yeah, I remember sort of growing up in Texas, right? And you see a house or a building that was sort of up since 1900, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's so historic. And I get here the first day. The first time I, ever stepped foot in England was coming here to start my first year. And I'm walking around and, I see this college and they have a sign out front. It says established 1240. And it's like, I don't even have a sense of how old that is, right? Like I have no sort of perspective for that kind of scale and for the like hundreds and hundreds of years of students to have kind of been here before. So it's humbling, I guess, that history.
Hey, I'm jealous. You know how many geniuses have walked the paths you're currently walking?
And how many more will, I suppose. I'm just some guy. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Hey, so where are you from, born and raised, and what's your cultural heritage?
Yeah, so I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. My dad was working there at the time. My mom was at Case Western University. You're doing some research, and we moved to Texas when I was very small enough that I don't remember it. Lived in Richardson for a bit, and then moved up to Frisco, which was where I grew up. My little brother, who's 4 years younger than me, was born there. And so yeah, Texas has been my home for as long as I can remember. My parents are from India. They moved over during graduate school, specifically from Maharashtra, the sort of Mumbai, Nagpur area on the west coast of India.
Okay.
And yeah, it's nice to have that sort of, those two aspects of my cultural heritage that I can draw on. We've been back to India, sort of, we try to go every few years as well and see family and things like that. But, obviously, especially being being here in England, I think, living in Texas, we don't realize it, but the sort of the Texas name and the fascination and the cultural history there it means a lot to people around the world.
Really?
I say I'm from Texas. Yeah, I say I'm from Texas and they go, oh, really? Like, it's one of, besides maybe New York, maybe California, it's one of the few places in the U.S. that everybody instantly recognizes it and they instantly have some connection with Texas, right? Wow. And that I wasn't really expecting that, but it's been really cool.
Awesome. So when did you realize that you had a talent for mathematics?
Yeah, it has to be since I was pretty little. You sort of do well in class. You realize this is something I'm interested in, something I like. And what specifically strikes my mind is that we had something called the CML, the Continental Math League. This was, I don't know, maybe you've heard about this from some others, but it was this little sort of competitive math thing they gave us in elementary school. And I remember really, acing a lot of those questions and having so much fun with it. And then in middle school, right, we sort of had a competitive math and science team that was going to these TMSCA meets, a few invitationals around, and then to the state meet. And that was where I really started to get into sort of the competitive circuit and doing it, more for what would ultimately become like the UIL sort of experience.
Did you all have a math counts in middle school?
I actually don't think we did. I remember hearing about it, and I remember, my dad got me this like little math counts practice book, and he said, "Check these out." And I had some fun doing some of the questions, but I don't believe that we did that. No.
So middle school was your introduction to competitive mathematics?
It was, yeah. So I think Frisco ISD. One of the sort of great privileges of going there was that the district and the schools were always very supportive in sort of sending us to competitions and sort of enabling whatever the students and the parents kind of wanted to do. And so, yeah, so in middle school, we had the sort of math, number sense, calculator, science competitions put on by TMSCA. And we would go to one or two invitationals, and then there was the big state meet every year in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a lot of fun memories of that, going down with friends and sort of competing, team winning some prizes, going to Fiesta, Texas afterwards. So
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. Hey, so who were your inspirations? Who inspired you?
yeah, I mean, my parents and my grandparents really, like, I mean, I think I come from a sort of family of scientists. I mean, my dad's dad was a physicist. My mom's parents were both zoologists and environmental engineers. My mom's a biochemist. My dad's an electrical engineer. And so they always sort of, I mean, inspired me to be curious and to ask a lot of questions. And I mean, I can only imagine how patient they must have been with me as sort of asking endless, sort of incredibly annoying questions about how does this work and how does that work and where does this come from and where does that come from. So I have to sort of credit them a lot for like nurturing that curiosity and challenging me and kind of pushing me, but up to the point where I wanted to do things myself, right? Challenging me, but not in sort of a punishing way, but in a way that sort of inspired me to try and do better for myself. Really.
Wow, wow. And I can only imagine how proud they are of you. Hey,
Yeah, I hope so. I like to think so. Yeah, I mean, though, number one, if there are any young people listening, the number one thing is always call your parents more than you think you need to. It helps. It's really important. Call your parents. Go call your mom right now if you haven't spoken to her in the last week. Like, it's it's nice. I mean, I sort of really appreciate that support and that support system. So
absolutely, absolutely. Great insight. Great advice. Hey, I want to talk about the year 2014, the year 2015, and Liberty High School. What was Liberty
yeah.
High School like in those days? What's Frisco, Texas like in those days?
Yeah, Liberty was it was a fun place, but it was a competitive. I mean, it was a challenging environment, right? And I remember, there was always lots going on, sort of extracurriculars, activities, different stuff that people were doing, and like academically, it was definitely a challenging environment. I mean, I had sort of my circle of friends taking all these AP classes and sort of pushing each other to do our best in the whole GPA race and all of that stuff. And I mean, I still tell people that sort of in terms of just the number of like hours of work that I put in, I think that 11th grade might have been the hardest year of my life. I mean, just like just with sort of like the sort of work effort that I was making compared to sort of my my knowledge and my abilities at the time, it was like it was really a place where you were sort of pushed to be your best. And I mean, Frisco in general wasn't, I think still is like that. Similar to kind of Plano, Allen, the sort of surrounding areas. It's a very sort of go and get 'em area of North Texas. And yeah, I think that it has its benefits and it has its drawbacks, right? I think that it it prepares people extremely well for what comes after that. Like, I mean, I got to college and I was like, oh, like, I've been doing these kind of assignments, final exams, whatever. Like, I'm ready for this. I think the drawbacks can happen when it sort of motivates people to do stuff they're not actually interested in. People are taking all AP classes just for the GPA points, and they're not playing the sport or playing the instrument that they. I mean, I sort of made the decision early on in high school that I am still am a soccer player, and I'm also a lapsed violinist. But I sort of decided in high school that I wasn't gonna sort of stop doing that just for this sort of academic class rank reasons and all that. And I'm so happy about that. Like, that's one thing that I will never regret, is sort of prioritizing hobbies and interests over just pure sort of academics, right? Because I think that's so important to sort of, I mean, being the person that you want to be, I guess, and not, well, anyway. But yeah, that was Frisco at the time. Hopefully, a little snapshot, and I'm sure it'll still be very familiar to anybody who's still there. Yeah.
Well, I have a question because I'm curious. Was there a vibrant Asian community? How was the social scene? Did you feel comfortable, well integrated, or was it just mainstream American?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and that's absolutely the thing. There was a and is a sort of very strong Asian American, I mean Indian American, Chinese American, Korean American, everybody. That community was very much there, and I mean I never really felt different or something there. It was always a place where I sort of felt like, I didn't feel like another. And I remember, I mean, actually, in first grade, right? I remember being one of two sort of South Asian kids in the year, maybe in the school. Um, and because sort of my family was sort of in the area, and we saw a lot of the our community kind of move in, the temples get built in Frisco, and the Indian restaurants start popping up on every corner, and that was really cool to see that sort of community start to build itself up. But my point is, I mean, even in first grade, I never felt like different or sort of excluded. I have a lot of happy memories of like multicultural nights at the school where my mom would show off our art and our food, and everybody would say, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." So yeah, I think that was it was a really nice place, I guess.
Awesome, awesome. You're painting such a nice picture of Frisco. Awesome, awesome. So back to mathematics. Was there a cohesive team, or were you working solo? Did you go to many tournaments?
Yeah, we did have a pretty. I mean, we had a sort of a team structure. Our math and science sort of operation in specifically was fairly built up. I mean, they were always trying to sort of recruit and look for people and get people to come compete. And then other subjects as well, some of the journalism subjects and under some of the sort of social studies and that kind of thing. People would be here and there, but we definitely did have some fairly dedicated coaches and some people sort of making that happen. We went to, I think, usually 2 invitationals a year. There would always be one up the street at Prosper, and then one other one kind of in the Dallas area that we would find before district.
Do you remember your coaches and your teammates? Would you like to do a shout out towards them?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I mean, so coaches, I first have to give a big shout out to Mr. Casas. He was my teacher for quite a few classes, for Algebra 2, for AP Calculus and Statistics. And sort of one of my earliest and sort of funniest UIL memories is as a freshman, I qualified for state just in math. And I was I think the only one, or maybe one of very few, to qualify from my school. But the way it ended up working out is that Mr. Casas and I drove down to Austin from Frisco, the 3.5 hours, just the two of us. And there was a little freshman me, sort of like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? But we made it work. It was fine. And he always put in the time for that. And then there was Mr. Chetty, Miss Worthington, and I have to give a big shout out as well to Mr. Schrantz, who came to the school, I think, when I was in 11th grade. But we were talking, and it turned out that actually he had been a former number sense state champion at the sort of rural Texas school where he had grown up, and so he was became a teacher and was sort of now excited to get involved, and it was always a lot of fun sort of talking strategy and talking UIL with him. And then teammates. I'll give a quick shout out to my guy Thomas, Rohit Kaparthi, Rebecca, Pratik, Nitya. I'm unfortunately not in touch with a lot of them these days, but you never know. You never know when you'll sort of run into somebody around the corner. So
hey, that reunion, that 10 years right around the corner.
Oh, don't remind me.
Hey,
but yeah, that's true.
What were your study habits like? How do you become a 4-time state champion?
Yeah. So I mean, the main thing is lots of practice, which kind of goes without saying. And just drilling the speed with the calculator with the math. But I think from talking to other people, I think the unique insight that I kind of had, right, is that everybody knows like after your practice you should go back and you should review, right? I mean, you should look at the problems that you missed or skipped and you should figure out how to do them. What nobody ever thinks of is you should also review the ones you got correct. Um, because the point is, I mean, especially in UIL, which is a speed competition, right? But even in other things, just because you got something right doesn't necessarily mean that you did it in the most optimal way, right? Yeah. And in something like UIL, especially, if you are getting one problem correct, but it's taking you 3 minutes, and then you're skipping the next two, or you're getting all three correct because you were able to sort of cut down the amount of time that you spend on a single problem. That's just as valuable as sort of learning how to do the next couple of problems. Maybe if I'm making that point clear. And so people always think to learn from their failures, but nobody ever thinks to learn from their successes, I guess. And so when I would go back and review, that would always be sort of something I would make a point of doing, was not just looking at questions that I missed, but also looking at questions that I got correct and thinking, sort of thinking critically about, am I solving this in the most, efficient or most effective or most accurate way?
Good insight. Good insight. Hey, did you have many rivalries in those days? Can you think of any, like either locally or statewide? Who were your main rivals?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, so I don't think they're still around. I tried looking to see if I could find them, but we had these sort of Texas competitive math forums back in the day, back in 2014, 2015.
You're talking about the website?
And I remember, yeah, it was
TexasMath.org, yes.
TexasMath.org, yeah, that's right. And I remember sort of, chatting to and meeting a couple of people through there, and ultimately being able to meet up with them at sort of local or the state meets. There was Wesley Runnels, there was Darius Davis, and calling them my rivals would be entirely misleading because I never beat them. Especially in number sense. I mean, those guys were just unbelievably good. But more rivals would be for me in Region 2, which was our sort of northeast corner of the state. It was especially some of the folks out from East Texas. So from Longview, Pine Tree, and from White House high schools, which are, I mean, that's a real sort of hotbed for math and that kind of thing. And there was Jack Terrell, I remember from White House, Blake Ritchie from Pine Tree, who were my big rivals in sort of number sense and calculator. And actually, funny enough, so my dad is a professor of electrical engineering at UT Tyler in East Texas. Right. And so he actually sort of, commutes out there the 2 hours, usually on the Monday or the Tuesday, and then comes back to Dallas on the Thursday or Friday. And I remember it was the funniest thing. A couple of years ago, he texted me and he says, "Hey, Vic, do you know a guy called Blake Ritchie?" And apparently Blake was doing a research project with him. They did a couple of papers together.
Wow.
And I think Blake's gone off to do his graduate degrees now. But yeah, that was funny. I actually spoke to him a couple of times that way. So that's sort of East. I guess, I mean, I always sort of had a bit of the East Texas connection because with my dad being out there, we would go and spend our summers in Tyler when I was little.
Yeah.
And so it was funny to see that kind of circle back.
Wow. Hey, which calculator did you use?
Yeah, so I used a TI-84.
Really? Just regular algebraic entry?
Yeah, for everything.
Oh,
wow. And I understand. I eventually at some point came to understand that was a bit of an unusual strategy.
Hey.
Because I think, people use the sort of RPM calculators, right?
Yes.
But I don't know. I had no idea this was a thing. I did my entire sort of, in middle school, 9th, 10th grade. And then finally, when Coach Trantz came in 11th grade, he said, "Hey, have you ever tried one of these, HP 35s or whatever they're called?" And I said, "Okay, I guess I can try it." But I just couldn't get the hang of it. And I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, so in calculator we would sort of time how long it takes you to do the number crunchers, right? And I think, I mean, at my peak, I had that time down to something like 7.5 minutes
Wow, that's
on the
incredible.
TI. Yeah, I mean, it was just fast fingers. It's just drilling and practice. And so he said, okay, like fair enough. I mean, if you're quick enough, then I guess don't rock the boat now. So yeah, I used the TI-84 for everything, and I still have that calculator. It's on my desk in the stats department in the office here. I still use it.
Hey, it's hard to argue with success, state champion. It's hard to argue with success. Hey, how does it feel to be a state champion?
It's cool. Actually, I mean, I don't know. It's nice. It's one of those things that kind of sticks with you. And um, I mean, Texas is a big place too. Like, it's a big state. I mean, it's so like sort of competing at like a high level and winning something in Texas. I mean, a state of 30 million people. Like, you come to Europe and realize like that's bigger than a lot of the countries here, right? Like, I mean, it's a nice feeling, I guess. I don't know. Um I'm still like I'm looking into the distance here because I have my little bumper sticker still hung up on a bulletin board next to my bed. The bumper sticker was always the real prize, right? The gold medals are nice too, but yeah, I can actually see it right now, and it's cool. I don't know. It's
What, the bumper sticker that says
I
"Don't
guess
mess with Texas"?
I wish it says UIL champion.
Oh,
It
UIL
just says
champion bumper sticker. Really?
yeah, of course.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow, 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 wow. Okay, cool,
They
cool.
still put those out. Do you know?
Wow, wow, that's awesome. Hey, where do you keep your gold medals?
Yeah, a few of them are hung up in my childhood bedroom. So back in Frisco, we got a little metal rack in there. They're hung up there.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, and to your point, it's
Mhm.
incredibly special to be a state champion. And you're a state champion 4 times. That's why I'm talking to you. It's an incredibly special accomplishment. So, yes, and Texas is a big state. Texas is a big state, man.
Wow, it's no joke.
Hey, so I know you're in Oxford now, but where'd you do your undergraduate?
Yeah, I did it at the University of Texas. Hookham. I got my little look back here. It's a Longhorn shirt. I don't know if you can see it. His name's Vince. You can guess why.
Vince Young.
Um, of course. Yeah, I did. I studied math and economics there at UT.
Oh, wow, wow. Did your UIL experience help you with that path at all?
Yeah, no, it absolutely did. I mean, sort of the work ethic, the kind of familiarity. I think one thing people don't realize is like mental math is such an incredibly useful skill, right? And sort of being able to sort of, and especially estimation, right? Like being able to sort of quickly get sort of a sense of the scale of things and to sort of do some calculations in your head. Like that comes up in real life, and also in sort of math coursework and math careers so much. Um, and then just in terms of calculator and math as well, the sort of familiarity and the comfort with a fairly broad array of technical problems and in different areas of math was super useful in my math degree there.
No.
I wish I could say the same about science, but sorry. Little side detour is that my friends always tried to rope me into the science competition, but it was never meant to be. Always an absolute disaster, and it culminated in the district meet my 11th grade year, where I scored something like maybe 30 points each in biology and physics, and a whopping -2 in chemistry. And after that, they said, "Okay, Vic, it's fine. Just go do math. You don't have to do the science anymore."
Well, it might please you or displease you to hear that I make my kids take the science. I just force them.
No,
You're
I
taking
mean,
the science.
I think that's an excellent idea. I fully support that.
Hey, they're in a science class. Might as well take the science test.
Yeah,
But it's a beast. It's hard.
it's a tough test. I mean, that's a serious test. I mean, by the time you're acing that test, you're ready for a college degree. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Funny. What do you value the most about your UIL journey?
Yeah, I think it's like I mentioned earlier. The sort of the work ethic was really valuable. The sort of ability to learn from, and I think this is so important, learn from both your successes and your failures is super important. Um, and the kind of the resiliency, right? Like, I mean, life is so much about not letting setbacks get you down, and sort of, trying new things, trying different things. And even if it doesn't go well one day, well, there's always next time, there's always the next meet, but there's always tomorrow, right? I mean, like, you can always do whatever you want to do and be whoever you want to be tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of, that's a really valuable lesson.
So the grit, the resiliency that instilled in you by UIL?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like yeah, like trying to figure out the sort of best way to put this. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. No, I think you got it there. Yeah.
So you might have answered this already, but
Mm-hmm.
what advice do you have for young students that may come across this interview? What's your advice for them?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice is like, if there's something you've been like wanting to do, I mean, do it, right? Which sounds, I mean, it sounds so obvious, but in reality, it's like it's so easy to sort of follow the path of least resistance, kind of, and just take the next class, or sort of apply to the careers or the internships or whatever that kind of just seem like the obvious next step that you should do because that's what everybody else who did this degree does, and something like that. And I hear so much too, people saying like, oh, when I finally have my house, or when I finally have this or that, then I'll finally be able to do this thing I've always wanted. It's like, I don't know, I don't get it. I mean, every day is a privilege. You shouldn't take things for granted. And so if there's something new you've been wanting to try, or somewhere you've been wanting to go, whatever that may be, like, if you get the chance, go, right? I think, yeah, like there's no reason to delay, I guess. And then one other thing, and I think this is something that I really wish I had heard even at the start of my sort of undergraduate degree, but especially in graduate school as well, is that it's like, you go into sort of an environment of people who seem like really sort of talented and like they know everything, and the truth is, like, really nobody really gets this stuff, right? I see this so much, like, for example, with like seminars that we have in our department. People will give some sort of really complicated academic talk, and afterwards, as a first year student, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I expected to follow this? And then eventually, at some point, you realize like nobody's really following the whole thing, right? Like everybody sort of has maybe a couple of points, or little 20 or 30% of the talk that they're kind of picking out here and there, the part that relates to what they already know, and maybe there's something useful or something interesting that they can get out of that. And that's the case, I think, in almost anything you do throughout life, is that the world is absolutely full of people who are kind of faking it until they make it, and that's fine, right? But sort of just embrace that and be comfortable with that, and you'll be okay. Yeah.
Great insight, especially coming from a 4-time state champion. You know what I'm saying? Great insight. Hey, so what does the future have in store for you, Vik?
Yeah, I will be wrapping up my PhD about a year and a bit from now, and planning to move back to the States, hopefully. So for a bit of context, I guess, before I started my PhD, I worked for a couple of years investigating financial crimes, actually, which was a interesting job. And sort of, with my bachelor's in math and econ, I sort of have a bit of a background in kind of like economics, policy, finance, that sort of sphere. And so I think I'd like to work in, something similar, but sort of, inform with a PhD, a little bit more of a research role when I get back in economic policy or something like that. And a couple of ideas for which way that might go. But hopefully that's where you'll see me in a few years' time.
Hey, well, you're still a young man, but good luck on that path. Good luck on that path.
Thank you, sir.
Any parting words or final thoughts as we conclude this interview?
Yeah, I think just like I sort of all the sort of stuff that I did in high school. I mean, I played the violin, I played a bit of soccer, did a couple of other competitions here and there. The one, like, to my surprise, I guess, but the one that's really stuck with me to this day is UIL. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool competition, and I don't think people should take it for granted. The sort of like, the wide range of different academic stuff that you can try out and you can dabble with and you can experiment and maybe discover hidden talent, or maybe just, get a little bit better or a lot better at something, is unique. And the fact that Texas has that kind of competition is really cool. And yeah, I don't think people should. I think people should be thankful for that, I guess. And like I said earlier, if there's something you want to do, go out and do it.
Hey, you nailed it on the head, man. We need to be grateful. Texas does it right, man. It gives these kids a platform to showcase their talents, to engage in academic pursuits, whatever that might be, whether it be journalism or spelling or math. I think you're right. I really appreciate you making that statement. Texas is very special and unique in that sense, and we give our youth an opportunity to shine. So I really appreciate you saying that, man. I really do. Hey, I'm in Houston. I'm not, I don't know if you come back, visit your parents, or you come back to Texas, but, you ever come to this part of the woods, man, look me up, man. We'll go get something to eat.
Oh, absolutely. I actually, in all my sort of, I do come back a couple times a year, see the family, usually in the summer and then around Christmas, up to Dallas. And in all my time in Austin, I never got down to Houston all that much, actually. I hear the food is really, really good there, but this remains for me an untested hypothesis. So
hey, well, we got to test the hypothesis.
Yeah.
It has a vibrant Indian community.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Houston has everything. So
I hear it has a vibrant every community.
Yeah, it has.
So I look forward to seeing that. Yeah.
Very much an international city. So hey, you got a friend in Houston. You have a friend in Houston.
That's so great to hear.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. You're a name in the archive, but now you're a face to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I see your name in the archive, and I can't tell you how grateful and thankful I am for you doing this interview and making that name in the archive come alive. Come alive. 4-time state champion. Very impressive. You're still very impressive walking over there at Oxford. So I have nothing but good wishes for you. I wish you the best of luck. And thank you very much. And I hope our paths cross soon.
Yeah, thank you again. Hope to see you soon.
Take care. Take care, Mr. Vik. Bye-bye. Farewell.
All right.
Farewell.
Bye.
Wow, what an outstanding young gentleman. I want to thank you very much. 4-time state champion, Mr. Vik Shirvaikar, out of Liberty High School in Frisco, Texas. I really appreciate it. Good luck at Oxford. Thank you very much. Let me take a quick moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, that you please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, that you leave a comment below, and that you smash that like button. I have plenty of wonderful things in store for this channel, and I truly appreciate your support. My name is Saul Danku, and this